Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and welcome back to Herb Rally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey, no matter what stage you're at. We have over 610 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is yet another interview on our new series called the Herbalist Hour. This is episode number 5, and I interviewed Chloe Hurtado. Now, Chloe wears many a different herbalist hat. She does some marketing and branding for an apothecary in Denver, Colorado. She also has an herbal smoking brand called Fuma Folia Botanicals. We dive into that a little bit in the episode. And she also works closely with Ecoversity and a new online herbalism certificate program. I won't tell you too much about it here in this intro because we go over it quite in depth in the episode. But I had a super fun time chatting with Chloe. That's one of the perks of doing this Herbalist Hour interview series now is I get to interview some of my old herbalist friends and get to meet some new ones like Chloe along the way. So I really hope you're enjoying the Herbalist Hour. If you want to give me any feedback, you could email me mason@herbrally.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And before we get into the show, I want to let you know about the upcoming 2023 Good Medicine Confluence. I've been to this event twice now, I want to say, and I absolutely love this event. It's hosted and run by Plant Healer, which is Wolf and Kiva Harden, and their daughter, Inga Harden. So it takes place July 18th to the 22nd. So it's a pretty long herbalism event, actually. It's, what is that, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22? That's like 5 days. A lot of herb conferences are 2 to 3 days, but this is a solid 5 days in Lake George, Colorado. And just to give you some of the teachers here, I'm going to go to their teacher page and kind of scroll down. They got Abra Arneson. She's done some podcast episodes for Herb Rally. Amy Branham, Ashley Ellenboss, Inga Harden, so I guess Inga's going to be teaching in a class. So is Jesse Wolf Harden, Kiva Harden, Tammy Hartung, Dana Hutchinson. She's Hutchinson. I'm Hutchison, so no relation there. Logan Keister, my man Logan Keister is going to be teaching. That's awesome. Dr. Kenneth Profrock. I've met him before at the Northwest Herb Symposium. Ash Ritter, Dara Seville, Heather Shelton, also a fellow Eugenian. Love Heather. Heather's a registered nurse and an herbalist who specializes in CBD, super knowledgeable. We've got some classes with her in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. Looks like Dr. Jillian Stansberry will be there. She's incredible. Atava Garcia Swaikiki, she's done a podcast episode for Herb Rally as well. Helena Wu, I have had quite a bit of interaction with her over the years. But yeah, you can learn more about the conference at planthealer.org/gmc.html. I know that's a lot to remember here, so I'll leave a link in the show notes. That's planthealer.org/gmc/html. And I'm actually going to be interviewing both Kiva and Wolf on the Herbalist Hour separately in April, so you'll get to hear more from them. I'm sure all of you already know who they are and their work. They've been doing this herbal thing for many years now. And one more thing before we get into the show, I got to shout out the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. If you'd like to help support the Herb Rally podcast and the Herbalist Hour, consider becoming an Herb Rally Schoolhouse member. It's only $10 a month. And in addition to helping support the show, you also get exclusive access to herbalism classes, monographs, and we just add to the schoolhouse each and every week. Amanda just published a 3-part Oxymil series with our good buddy Kyle Denton. And here in the coming week, we're going to be publishing the webinar we just did with Erica Galantin called The Business of Clinical Herbal Practice. And it was epic. It was scheduled to be 2 hours, and she went over, I think it was about 2 hours and 45 minutes, including about maybe 30 minutes of questions. So if you want to look into becoming a clinical herbalist, this was a really great introduction, and Erica's just super knowledgeable, and we're really lucky to have her now in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. Well, like I said, that class is coming soon, but if you'd like to learn more about the Schoolhouse, you could go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse, and be sure to enter coupon code podcast, and you could get your first 30 days for free. And then, like I said, it's only $10 a month, and we're really trying to make this super affordable for people. And, like I said, you get exclusive access to classes. There's also discounts to cool herbal companies. and a whole lot more. So learn more at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Use coupon code podcast at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Okay, that's going to do it for me today. Enjoy this interview with Chloe. And yeah, hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. The content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. This information has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. We are not doctors, nor do we play one on the internet. Please seek advice from a qualified healthcare professional. Okay, MC Calico, take it away.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some mullein and some kush, my brethren. While listening to Herb Rally podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchinson. Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today we have on Chloe Hurtado. Welcome to the show, Chloe.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. Yeah, so Chloe and I were connected through this new herb program that I found out about called Ecoversity, which we'll go in depth in later. But for now, I kind of just want to get to know Chloe a bit more. We've chatted on the phone a couple times now, but Chloe, how did you get introduced into the world of herbalism?
The beautiful world of herbalism. Yeah, I was first introduced when I was around 22 years old. I was working at a yoga studio, doing some work trade, and I was pretty much wiping up the floor with my tears after a really intense breakup. And inside of the yoga studio was a traditional Chinese medicine elixir bar with this lovely man from New Zealand who had a wealth of knowledge about TCM herbs. And he came over and patted my back and was like, "Oh, sweetie, open your mouth." And he dropped in a couple drops of this tincture, which I had never, seen before either. Was definitely kind of concerned at first. And yeah, he dropped in, a couple drops of this tincture called albizia, which is known as the heartbreak flower. And for the first moment ever, within that day, I was able to take a deep breath and my anxiety settled and my heart felt a little bit softer. And I stopped crying, was able to finally properly clean the yoga studio. And that was my first exposure into the power of herbal medicine. I had never witnessed something so profound, so deeply healing, so nurturing. And from there, I was hooked. And it pretty much changed my life and how I interacted with the world.
Right before this call, I was looking for some blue vervain tincture because I do get a little nervous before these things, and all I could really find was some albizia extract that my friend Jesus made. So yeah, that was helpful.
How did it make you feel?
I think I have a very I don't know, how do I describe my constitution? I think I need a lot of something to feel the effects. So we're just going to say that I probably feel better energetically, but I'm not necessarily noticing it. I do feel in the moment right now. I also did add a little bit of my St. John's wort tincture to that as well, but I'm feeling good. I'm not sure if I'm crediting the albizia, but yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I love blue vervain too. I'm a Virgo, and I was listening to Seja Popham's podcast on blue vervain, and he was like, "This is a wonderful herb for Virgos because we're super analytical, very hard on ourselves." I could actually go for a nice tincture of that right now.
Yeah, speaking of blue vervain, I've also seen Seja teach on that at I think it was the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference, and everything he was saying, I was like checking the box on everything. I remember, I want to say it was Seja that said blue vervain is for people who make checklists for checklists. Like, it's just anyone who's like always like, sometimes you'll add something to your checklist just to cross it off or whatever.
Right. I do that all the time. I make checklists once I've finished all of the projects because sometimes I get so overwhelmed with how many things I have on my list. So then as instant gratification, I make that completed checklist and scratch it up. I'm like, yeah, I did this.
Yes. For those listening and watching, I do want to recommend, there's a great blue vervain video where Seven Song teaches about it, and I want to say Matthew Wood also has a video on YouTube, so just search Seven Song or Matthew Wood blue vervain on YouTube, and I've watched that several times and I love it. But Well, cool. Well, thanks for sharing your story. Wiping the yoga floor with your tears.
I
I
kid
don't
you
know why I
not, it
laughed at
was
that.
so
That sounds sad.
good.
Um,
You know, that breakup was truthfully the best thing that ever happened to me,
sure.
because it allowed me to get back to Chloe and who she genuinely was as a woman, a young woman at the time. And it started my herbalist journey. So I have deep gratitude for that experience.
Amen.
His loss.
Speaking of, yeah, your early herbalism experiences, do you have any early influences or mentors?
Hmm. Well, I was thinking about this, and it kind of, indirectly related. I think that my grandpa, he was definitely someone super connected to the natural world. He made a soup called Becco's Belly, and his name is Becco, and it was full of like lentils and carrots, and kind of a rundown of everything in the refrigerator. He also was a rancher, and he worked on a pecan farm, and so we would go out there and harvest a whole bunch of pecans. And growing up, I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Mojave Desert, where there's not a lot of resources, where people take a lot more than what they give, including water and just endless resources. And so, I definitely didn't grow up with a lot of fresh food, a lot of food that was grown locally. We definitely ate pretty well, but it was always, going to my grandpa's house, he would make this super unsweet smoothie, and comparatively to, going out and having smoothies from some of the restaurants nearby, I remember being like, Papa, this isn't, it's warm, and it was super weird. So I would say that my grandfather was kind of one of my first influences into, going out and harvesting the pecans and cracking them open and eating them fresh. And so that always was such a treat when I was growing up. And then I had come to also, one of my early influencers was Ollie from the yoga studio. He has a elixir bar called Kutuku. And, he introduced me to the Albizia tincture, which definitely transformed my life. Shortly after, I discovered Rosemary Gladstar, as every young herbalist does, and got a hold of her, one of her books on women's health and kind of the reproductive system. And that was really profound book for me, because at the time, uh, lots of exposures to, the pharmaceutical industry within birth control, and really harmful, or I guess can be supportive sometimes too. But yeah, it was different than what I had ever been exposed to growing up in Las Vegas. And so Rosemary Gladstar, and then one of my first real introductions to actual herbal medicine was Seja Papam. I had downloaded one of his free resources on spagyrics and thought the alchemy of that was just so beautiful. And I knew nothing about it, and definitely thought that, the process was a little wild at the time. And I was like, I don't even know what he's talking about. And yeah, I bought a one-way ticket to Costa Rica and landed at a farm called Punta Mono, which is a botanical study and regenerative agriculture farm. And I came with my little packet about spagyrics, and all of the girls there were like, "Oh, this is so cool, and we've been wanting to make these." And we started dreaming up some ideas of how to make it actually possible at Punta Mona. And then shortly after, within a week of me landing at Punta Mona, Sarah Wu had come to teach a course on the herbalist path, or permaculture design for the herbalist path. And that was another deep dive into actually seeing the magic of the plants growing in front of you, the process of how you can safely harvest them, and the alchemy of turning it into ingestible medicine that was safe for us to take. And at the time of my arrival there was a mental parasite that had broken out, and so all these people believed that they had parasites. And further testing had concluded that that wasn't possible. But Sarah made a big batch of what she called murder juice, and it was ombre grande and guani lama and ginger and a whole bunch of other, very, very bitter herbs. And that definitely did some cleansing for all of us. And so, so it was pretty profound experience, and definitely through that, there was no looking back into my old life or my old ways of existing.
Yeah, once you kind of cross into the herbal realm, it's hard to look back. I could totally relate. So you studied with Sarah Wu then, huh? I'm yet to meet her in person, but do you know what her like herbal lineage is? I kind of want to say I feel like she studied with Seven Song, or do you happen to know that?
I can't say specifically, but I do know she has studied with Seven Song. She is originally from New York and had landed at Punta Mona as well, and had lived there for over 10 years. And so she was kind of the originating village witch at Punta Mona, and started hosting workshops with also a dear mentor of mine, Lala Palmerari. And these two are hosting really powerful workshops here in Costa Rica, in Portugal, and Guatemala, about permaculture, about herbalism, and they definitely incorporate a lot of the ancestral wisdom and deep reverence, for the history of how we came to know these plants, and their safe uses for them.
My cats are playing around. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I don't know if you know this, but we list herbalism events on Herb Rally. I don't know if I'm signed up for Punta Mona, or I'm not sure which newsletter I should sign up for, but I want to stay abreast of these events that's going on over there, Sarah Wu specifically. So I'll maybe sign up for that newsletter so I can find out about what's going on.
Totally. Yeah. Unfortunately, Sarah doesn't have a newsletter, and my goal is to kind of support her with getting that going.
Yeah.
She's kind of mostly posting on Instagram, but as I see them come up, I'd be happy to send them. And yeah, I've been listening to Herb Rally for, the last 4 to 5 years, I would say. It was one of the first podcasts I've ever come across, and it was just so accessible and so such easy listens. And then, it wasn't until recently I signed up for your newsletter, and I was like, oh my God, I've been missing out on all of these incredible. And so I just want to say, like, that is like such an incredible resource for people to get access to. And if you haven't signed up for Herb Rally's newsletter, I highly recommend, because you get to find out about a whole bunch of really cool events within the area. And I was like seeing some in Arizona, and I was like, oh, I'm in Colorado. I'll just drive down there for the weekend and hang out.
Thank you, Chloe. You're hired. I love hearing that. I'll never forget the first time I heard someone. I was working at the Mountain Rose Herbs booth at the Portland Plant Medicine Gathering in Portland. No, it was the Traditional Roots Conference in Portland, and someone came up to the booth or the table and said, "Hey, Mason, we're here because we saw this on the Herb Rally website," which just made my day. Like, that's the whole point, is to get people out there going to events, plant walks, and all that. So I didn't actually expect you to say that, but that does segue nicely into the next question, which is, what are some of your favorite resources, books, etc., to learn herbalism? Herb Rally.
I would say, yeah, Herb Rally is definitely one of those resources. So wonderful to pop in your headphones and chop up some dinner, and you have such a soothing voice too, so definitely enjoy that. Another incredible resource that I love is Seja Papam. His resources, there's a lot of free resources, which I love. He makes it super accessible. Sometimes it's super heady, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about here, but I love it. But I love how he ties in, the astro herbalism, the materia medicas, the constitutions, and he really finds ways of telling a story so that you can remember what these herbs what the herbs messages are. And so, yeah, he is one of my favorite resources. When I first started, Rosemary, Gladstar, her books are super accessible, and I do love those as well. Learning Herbs is another wonderful resource that I love, to just kind of follow on Instagram and have it pop up on my stories there. And yeah, Sarah Wu. But then also, through Punta Mona and through Ecoversity, which we can kind of go into a little bit later, because
I think that's coming up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about Ecoversity, because it's new to me, and I guess it's new in general. But I was looking at your Instagram the other day and noticed that you taught a class on smoking blends at the Envision Festival. I didn't know you had a smoking blend brand, which I'm really intrigued by it. this is probably very taboo, but I'll occasionally smoke a cigar, which tobacco is a plant, I guess. But yeah, so herbal smoking is of interest to me. It's actually in the Herb Rally song. I don't know if you have heard that or
I
not.
heard that. I heard that, and I was like, yes.
Shout out MC Calico.
Yeah.
I just wondered, before we kind of talk about Ecoversity, but are you able to give us maybe like a brief, quick lesson on herbal smoking blends 101?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So Fuma Folia Botanicals is my line of herbal smoking blends, and they're non-psychoactive, non-addictive botanical smoking blends that you can either smoke alone, you can mix with other herbs such as tobacco or even cannabis. But really, they were kind of designed for me to reevaluate my relationship with how I interact with specific plants. While living at Punta Mona, finding access to cannabis was quite difficult. It was pretty expensive, and we were trying to find unique ways to be able to stretch the cannabis that we did have. And so Sarah Wu had taught a workshop on how you different herbs that are also super beneficial for smoking. And so shortly after that workshop, I hadn't really grounded down, those ideas, but I was cleaning the showers at Punta Mona, and I had mixed chlorine with vinegar, and that actually creates a super toxic, it creates chlorine gas. And I was inhaling it for over 30 minutes and had some chemical burns on my lungs. And a dear friend had brought some mullein from Colorado, and we did a facial steam with it. And that was the one thing that was like what actually made this intense pain. I thought I was going to die, and I was thinking that they might have to take me to the hospital. And once I did the steam of mullein, it soothed my lungs and allowed me to just kind of take some deeper breaths, which helped, with the anxiety and the stress of those chemical burns. And then later that day, I probably shouldn't have, but I definitely wanted to smoke. And so I had mixed some of the mullein with the cannabis, and it was a really magical experience. I think we threw in a little bit of passion flower and some cacao husk. And so this was kind of the beginning of Fuma Folia Botanicals. And so I had arrived in the United States and was really excited because I was working at an apothecary, and we didn't have herbal smoking blends. And I knew that the community in Colorado could greatly benefit from a line of things. A lot of people, smoking is a way of bringing people together as humans. We love connection. And sometimes, sitting and relaxing and taking a deep inhalation of plants and exhaling it out can allow us to relax and to have conversations and to kind of release some inhibitions. And so my main goal for this was to allow people to kind of revisit how we interact with certain plants and the why. For me, it's partial addiction. For me, it's also sleep aid, appetite increase, a way to increase appetite and all these different functions. But there's also a whole bunch of wonderful, wonderful medicinal herbs that can be smoked that provide the same effects without having the psychoactive implications from tobacco or cannabis. And so, yeah, herbal smoking blend is basically grounded up herbs that are blended together with a unique formula to allow yourself to create a blend that's super comprehensive. And so you have your base herbs, and these are herbs that are nice and fluffy, kind of stringy. These are kind of like the glue to the herbs or to the blends. And these are things like mullein, raspberry leaf, marshmallow, mugwort, motherwort, super incredible herbs. Then you have your action herbs or your flavor herbs. And this is another big bulk of your smoking blends. You want your herbs to taste nice when you're inhaling them, because, mixing that with fire can definitely alter the way the plant relates to you. And so these are herbs like lavender, rosemary, roses, hops. Hops is one of my favorite herbs to smoke. Herbs that are super terpene rich that allow you to really taste the flavors of the blends. And then you have your astringent herbs, and these are things like uva ursi, which is also known as kinnikinnick, things like sumac, herbs that are super tannin rich. These herbs provide a really full-bodied smoke. So if you were to, I don't know if you've ever smoked mullein on its own, but it's horrific. It's pretty painful. It goes straight into your throat.
Yeah.
It hits your throat and your lungs really quickly, and then when you blow it out, there's typically no smoke. And so we really want to drive the medicine into the body. And so having herbs that are more full-bodied, tannin rich, allow the smoke to be even thicker so that you can have a wonderful inhalation experience. And then you have your acute herbs. And so this could be something that might be your driver herb. So things like rosemary and mugwort and other herbs that help deliver the medicine deeper into the body. And so one blend that I have is called Sacral Oasis, and this is to help alleviate women's pain around that time of the month, around the time of our sacred bleed. And so this blend contains the base herbs of motherwort, of raspberry leaf, and then I have the flavor herbs of lavender and roses. And then I have my action herbs, which is white willow bark. And so white willow bark is a lovely herb to help with pain relief and inflammation. And so that's kind of my driver herb. And it's also full of tannin. So this helps create that fuller bodied smoke. And so there's wonderful resources online that can kind of give you a general overview of how to craft and formulate a really effective smoking blend and the proper ratios that you can look for. But what's beautiful about smoking herbs is that through the inhalation of smoke, you're breaking the blood-brain barrier. And so this allows you to receive medicine within 6 to 10 seconds, which is a super effective way to intake medicine for very acute symptoms. They can be chronic symptoms, but mostly acute. So, you know, my blends, I really like to focus on certain actions. So I have another blend called Release, and this is what I call a habit relieving blend. And this formula is designed for those who are ready to kind of kick their nicotine habit and substitute out in their pre-rolled or their rolled cigarettes or joints. And so this blend I really like to use when I'm having a little bit of when I'm having a difficult time with my relationship with certain plants. And so it kind of allows me to, you know, get into that ritual of, okay, you know, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to roll this beautiful joint, and I'm really going to think about the habits that I'm ready to release. And then I have some really good friends who have reached out and they're like, I'm no longer smoking tobacco from your blends. Can I get a pound of it? And so I like to remind them, you know, that these herbs, you know, you are still smoking and inhalating, you know, herbs. So it's incredibly important to find high quality herbs that you know that are grown without pesticides, that are as organic as possible. And this is a really great opportunity to connect with local farmers, because you're not only, you know, taking care of yourself and your community if you are sharing these herbs with other people, but you're also helping farmers with their, you know, with their business and helping share that with the community. And so, yeah, I love to support my local farmers. And get to know them, and even go and visit and see how the plants are grown, and just knowing that I'm you know, accessing really important herbs that are as safe as possible. But there are implications of smoking, so I like to recommend, you know, that the smoking blends be used, you know, in moderation, even though they are really tasty. And once you start using them, it's kind of hard to imagine a joint that doesn't have them in there. So.
I love your name too, Fuma Folia. I'm guessing that means leaf smoke.
Yeah, like smoke leaves, you know, kind
That's
of
cool.
the Latin name there. And
Alliteration.
exactly. Yeah, you mentioned alliteration a while ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is going to be great, because I love to write in alliteration. Sometimes my writing doesn't make any sense because I've just tried to match as many L words as I can.
It's worth it.
I think it's poetic.
Yeah, it is. Very cool. Thanks for that. Yeah. For those looking for a resource, I know my original herbal mentor, Howie Brownstein, maybe once or twice a year we'll do like an online herbal smoking blend class, and I could link to that. But yeah, if you ever teach a class online or in person, let me know and I'll get it listed.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, Howie Bernstein was actually one of the first resources that I had access to, that provided me with a lot of information on herbal smoking blends and how to effectively craft, you know, a nice blend for people.
Very cool. Yeah, we have a plant around here in the Northwest called kinnikinnick, and I know that's a common name. So a lot of people probably have the word kinnikinnick. I believe it's a Native American word for, I believe, an uva ursi,
Yeah.
remembering correctly. And He always says astringents add body to the smoke, and I never forget that. So
Yeah, exactly. And what's really cool about Kinnikinnick or Uber is I was reading an article of some scientific research posted by University of Washington in 2020, and they had two pipes. One was before pre-colonial introduction of tobacco in the United States or into North America, and post-colonial pipes. And so they tested both of these pipes, and they found typically before they were testing for the metabolics, but now they were testing for the biometrics, which was allowing them to be able to figure out exactly which species of tobacco the original people of North America were smoking or even just utilizing. And they found wild sumac, kinnikinnick, and tobacco mixed into one of the pre-colonial pipes. And so this was a really cool study to read about. And it just made me realize how important it is to know like kind of the lineage of these plants and their uses. And sometimes kinnikinnick is in a lot of my blends because it's super effective and it works really well. And there's a reason why it was used so prevalent within North America.
very cool. Yeah, fascinating stuff. Sweet. Well, let's jump into the Ecoversity. Chloe, what's the Ecoversity?
Yeah. So Ecoversity is a super wonderful organization filled with some of the most passionate people I have ever met. Our main focus is environmental health in regenerative agriculture, in permaculture, and now herbalism. And so it's an online education center. And we first started out with the permaculture design course featuring Stephen Brooks and Penny Livingston. And we had overwhelming interest in the program. I think we're on our fourth cohort of students who are benefiting from this course. And at the time, graduates would be able to come to Punta Mona and be able to directly apply the skills that they learned in the PDC course and build really wonderful garden beds, learn how to propagate, learn how to grow from seed. And also the big part of, permaculture is earth care and people care. And so how do we relate and support each other? And how do we come into places without like the white savior syndrome, but really being conscious and aware of the need within communities and seeing how we can best benefit and support communities within what actually makes sense. And so, yeah, Ecoversity is a wonderful education center, and I'm really excited because we've just launched a 6-month herbalism program with Rosemary, Gladstar, Sarah Wu, Asia Dorsey, Seraphina, Capranos, Paul Stamets, Adriana Ellis of Anima Mundi. And so it's an incredible, stellar lineup of teachers. And what I love about this program is that it's also live. So every week for 6 months, you have live classes where you're able to tune in directly with these teachers, and also have access to a huge community on Discord where you can interact with people within your community. And also be able to meet up and go on plant walks and host, herbal medicine making classes and really apply these skills within the program.
Yeah, a couple thoughts there. I got to know, so you use a Discord server as your community component. Is that true? Okay. How are students receiving that? Because I feel like Discord is almost more associated with say your techie nerd type people, but are people jumping in and using it and everything?
Yeah, actually,
I'm a nerd too, so no disrespect. I just
no. Yeah, so I'm, it'll be interesting to see how it fully plays out, but Discord is definitely growing in popularity within the herbal community. At the apothecary I work at in Denver, Colorado, we use Discord to communicate with each other. And what's nice is that you can set up different channels depending on the topic. And so the Discord community through this herbal program will be kind of a similar to, a Facebook group or something like that. It'll be a place where people can go in and drop questions. I live in Colorado in North Denver. Does anyone want to go on a plant walk with me in Boulder? So cool. And you can kind of drop in these messages, or I made a salve and it went really funky. I don't know what's going on, Yeah, I had a dear friend who bought some OSHA and we made a honey with it, and it had spoiled within 2 or 3 days of us making it. And so we couldn't figure it out. And it's really nice to be able to have a platform where you can drop your questions in and people can share what they've tried and what works and what doesn't work, or what they're still trying to figure out maybe.
Yeah, I just asked because I actually did start a Discord server for Herb Rally. I haven't used it once. I haven't shared it, but I know a lot of people aren't big fans of Facebook, and so I was like, oh, maybe I'll try Discord out. But hey everyone, it's Mason. Just a quick interruption from the show to let you know about our 13 herbal freebies. If you go to herbrally.com, on the navigation bar at the top of the page, you'll see a button that says Freebies. Just click there and you'll sign up for our email newsletter. And in exchange, we're offering 13 herbal freebies. That's ebooks, webinars, videos, downloadable audio, and discounts to cool herbal companies. So if you'd like to check out these freebies, as well as sign up for our email newsletter, we update you about current events, new monographs, new videos, etc. Just go to herbrally.com and click on the button at the top of the page that simply says freebies. Okay, that's it from me. Now back to the show. I do love that your story almost comes full circle, because you said, oh, Rosemary, Gladstar, early influence, Sarah Wu, and now you're like working with both of them at Ecoversity.
It's a pinch me moment, truthfully. I never thought I would have the pleasure of being able to just meet Rosemary Gladstar in person, or even take a program with her. And I am a product developer for an apothecary in Denver, Colorado called Balanced Root Apothecary. And I've worked closely with Ecoversity from living at Punta Mona. And so they've reached out and asked if the apothecary would like to be involved in the herbalism program. And so they didn't really tell me too much about it, but they were like, this is an opportunity that you don't want to miss. And I was like, they just gave me the dates. They were like, are you available these dates? And be ready for something cool. And they were super cryptic. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. So they sent me this huge herb list, and I gathered it all together. And it was an ounce of this, an ounce of that. And they were like, oh, we're going to be filming, the home apothecary module for the herbalism program with Rosemary Gladstar. Would you like to come on set and be the ingredient set provider and help us kind of curate the tables and make sure that Rosemary has all of the things that she needs to be successful for the filming? And again, one of those moments where I almost threw my computer across the screen or across the room. I was like, what? And so it was a huge opportunity, coming from an apothecary that has just opened. We're just celebrated 1 year, and to be able to be involved in a project of this level with people that we really believe in and resonate with, and then also being able to create a space for Rosemary to share her legacy of herbal medicine. And so we put together this incredible set where we reached out to a whole bunch of friends who have farms and apothecaries, and just collected a whole bunch of resources to design, a really beautiful set where we can really honor the recipes and the stories that Rosemary shared. And so that week was one of the most special weeks of my life, because it was a very small container of people, and I just laid on the floor and just listened to Rosemary's stories. And then the minute they called cut, I'd run up on and wipe down all the oil and refill, the little containers, or we would completely change the set around. And Rosemary was such a treat to work for. She was so compassionate and so caring and so humble and just a hoot. She's absolutely hilarious. And so to be able to work so closely with Rosemary, and to also tie in, a lot of the instructors that I've had huge fangirl crushes on for so long, like Adriana Ellis and Sarah Wu and Seraphina Capranos, who is our program director for the curriculum. It's a circle of women who are very present and very grounded and very caring, and they want to make herbal knowledge accessible and relatable. And without these women, I don't think I would be here today feeling confident enough to chat on Herb Rally, or to make a company, or to even represent myself in ways. And so I feel extremely lucky to be part of this project, because it is grown with just pure love. Like, this program was developed with just the intention of really making herbal medicine accessible so that we can shift the paradigm and relate in different ways of how we caretake in for each other and for our families and in our community.
Yeah, I want to say I hung out with Rosemary like 10 years ago at the Mother Earth News Fair, and we were sitting on Giuseppe Spatafora's T-bus, and I swear she was saying, yeah, I'm thinking about like retiring, quote unquote, like, laying low. And I swear she's working more now than I've ever seen her. So yeah, very cool that Ecoversity got Rosemary to work so closely with. And I haven't looked too much into the program, but you were mentioning, I mean, I have, but I haven't like looked in too much into like what Rosemary specifically is teaching about. But yeah, the teacher lineup besides Rosemary is incredible. And I want to say in passing, you just mentioned Paul Stamets. Did I hear that correctly? Part of
Yes, yes.
Ecoversity?
He is. He'll be teaching a 45-minute lesson that will be in the course
Oh,
about
cool.
mycology and mushrooms. And so we're super honored to also have Paul. And I think the reason why this course has developed in the way that it has is because of Rosemary.
Hmm.
She is so well loved within the community, and she was the first person who agreed to be part of this course, which was an idea over 2 years ago. And I don't think we all thought it would come to what it is today. And Rosemary had just reached out to a few of her friends asking if they wanted to be involved with the project in any way. And before we knew it, we had some of the most wise herbalists in the community to represent this. And also it's people from all over the world, which is super incredible. So yeah, it's really special to see how it's come together. And the reason why it's such a yes is because Rosemary has created and forged so many incredible relationships over the years, and so loved within the community that she's a hard person to say no to. I wouldn't even
Uh,
dream of that.
well put. I also know that Rising Appalachia has some sort of involvement as well. I believe they're teaching a class as well as doing the graduation ceremony music. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, yes. So we're super excited for Rising Appalachia. They have been super involved within the herbalism community, believe it or not, and have spent a lot of time here in Costa Rica working with Sarah Wu and Lala, and have even visited Punta Mona. And so we've brought them on to also be able to host such a beautiful closing ceremony to all of our students who have worked so hard over the last 6 months to earn their certification and intake all of this knowledge. And so that'll be a real treat. But also Leah Song will be teaching I think a couple workshops, and I think they're kind of still finalizing what those workshops look like, but it'll definitely incorporate the folklore and the mysticism and the poetry of herbalism, and kind of reframing. We'll be talking a lot about, it'll be very information dense, very dense with information. And so I imagine that her module is definitely going to lighten and lift it and allow us to incorporate the dance and the singing into how we work with the herbs.
They make such beautiful music. Bringing Rosemary Gladstar back up, I don't know if you know this, but I actually co-organized the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference in 2019, and I believe it was me asking Rosemary if she had some sort of connection to Rising Appalachia, and she actually was able to put us in touch. And then it just so happened that Rising Appalachia was going to be playing a show in Bend, Oregon, like the day after the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference. So they actually were able to stop by the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference and do a show for us. And that was just incredible. I know they have deep roots with the herbal community, and it's such a perfect fit for Ecoversity.
Yeah, yeah, they're really special women, and have always been playing in my headphones while I'm making medicine or while I'm harvesting herbs. It's one of my favorite music groups to listen to as I begin to start grounding down in designing the formulas that I want to make for my community. So yeah, very
Amen.
beautiful.
I love it. So I also saw that Sobande Greer is one of your instructors at Ecoversity. I believe you just hosted a webinar. We're actually going to be interviewing her in the next month or so on the Herbalist Hour, so we're super excited for that. But I believe the webinar has since passed, and now you have some sort of online summit
Yeah,
coming.
but we have another exciting opportunity coming up for those who are interested. We're going to be hosting a online community summit with Rosemary Gladstar, Seraphina Capranos, Stephen Brooks, Asia Dorsey, Sarah Wu, a whole beautiful lineup, and it's called Remembering the Plant Path. And then we also have a special guest, which is super awesome, because it's definitely someone we talked about today. But the Herbal Summit is going to be on Saturday, March 25th, around 9 a.m. to 2. And we're going to be unveiling the wonders of herbalism with the world's most foremost experts. It's a donation-based webinar, so all of the proceeds are going to United Plant Savers. So it's a really good opportunity to meet some of the instructors that are in Ecoversity's online certification program. We'll be doing an opening ceremony. We'll be talking about the Way of the Rose with Seraphina Capranos, which I'm super excited about. Weeds of Wonder in the Backyard with Rosemary Gladstar. Ethics for Herbalists with Sarah Wu. We'll also be talking about people's medicine and the bioremedy of environmental racism with Asia Dorsey. And then Regenerative Herbal Panel with Stephen Brooks and our surprise guest. And I'll also be hosting this particular webinar. So I'm super excited to introduce, some of my dear friends and teachers and all of you to this wonderful program.
That's so cool. You're going to do a wonderful job hosting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that sounds super exciting. So one more time, that's March 25th, right?
Yeah, March 25th, depending on where you're at. For I think me in Colorado, it's around 9 a.m. But we will be sure to include the website on the show notes here.
That's right. Very cool. Well, just a few more questions here if you got the time.
Yeah.
I have to know, did you meet Zac Efron?
No, unfortunately, I didn't get to meet Zac Efron. He had come to Punta Mona about a year and a half, maybe 2 years before I had gotten to Punta Mona. But funny enough, I was one of the first groups that was welcomed back to Punta Mona after COVID had shut things down. And so we were definitely still amidst the full COVID thing. But I remember being on a boat and I was with all these young women and they were like, do you guys think Zac Efron's going to be here? And I was so confused. I was like, why would Zac Efron be here? And then, I asked them, like, why do you guys keep talking about Zac Efron? And they were like, oh, that he just filmed a documentary here, blah, blah, blah. And I hadn't even, heard about Down to Earth. And so definitely the first thing I did when I got into the bedroom at Punta Mona was try to download or try to stream the Netflix show, and unfortunately didn't get to watch any of it until several months after living at Punta Mona. And man, that was such a treat to be able to tune in and watch and see some of our goober community on screen, and and his experience at Punta Mona was definitely very similar to like how I first showed up. Everyone was playing volleyball on the beach and all these people come up and start hugging you, and there's all these different natural odors in the air, and I'm smelling my arm, and I've got armpit all over it, from being hugged. So yeah, I didn't get to meet Zac Efron, but I'm sure his world got rocked at Punta Mona.
That's so cool. And yeah, I think Steven gave him a tour around the property, right?
Yeah.
I want to check out that episode, but I just love when like our community gets highlighted in mainstream culture, and I think that's really cool. It's featured in a Netflix original series.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see, and it definitely increased the interest in Punta Mona. A lot of people, all of a sudden, it went from being this low-key farm on the Caribbean coast to having thousands of emails coming through. And that's when I kind of stepped in and started to support Punta Mona in hospitality and being able to, create programs that would allow all of these folks to come and stay without impacting our community or the land in too many ways. And so we made it work, and it was really awesome. And it gave exposure to a new way of living for a lot of people who were looking for something like that, who knew that they were feeling a little lost or a little bit like an outsider within their communities. And then they saw that episode and they were like, I got to get out there. And I've gotten the pleasure to meet so many of those people and the way that they've transformed their lives and have, changed the course of how they exist. It's pretty incredible to see.
Love it. This wasn't on my list, but I'm going to ask it anyways. I'm curious because it sounds like, you were getting into herbalism and now you find yourself in kind of this pinch me moment job with Ecoversity and all that. And I'm just kind of curious, did you have a very specific vision that you were working towards? Do you feel like you kind of fell into it with, we like to use the word luck and all that. Sometimes I think maybe we create our own luck in some ways, but are you manifesting this? Are you trying to, are you kind of living out the vision you had for yourself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I was telling her about, this opportunity, and she was like, Chloe, this is something that you've been dreaming, not exactly this exact way it's unfolded, but this is something that you have been dreaming and creating for yourself over 4 years ago. And, I had talked to her about, how do I celebrate myself right now? Because it's an interesting feeling to be sitting here right now and involved with such a beautiful organization and being able to work with some of my dear mentors and people I look up to so much, and have the support of launching a new business and feeling a little bit more confidence in that. And I will say that it was a lot of sitting with my intentions every single day of just knowing that there was an overall vision of I wanted to live, in a beautiful place with kind people who were like me, having access to growing my own food, because that's something I never thought would happen after growing up in Las Vegas. And it took a lot of failure, a lot of putting myself in different places that, putting myself out there, whether that was, having conversations with people or working for organizations that were within my values, but maybe not necessarily the motivator, and I drive off of a lot of motivation and inspiration, and I love to put everything that I can into what I do. And that can sometimes be what kicks you in the butt too, if you're putting it into places that don't fully serve you. And so there was a lot of course correcting and going back to the drawing board. And I had thought that I wanted, a big girl job, and I knew I wanted to work remote. I knew I wanted to work for an organization that was in my values. And I would put myself in situations with really big companies, and ultimately, didn't make the cut essentially, and would kind of be sad for a little bit, but know that, this is a test and this is going to just get me closer to what I'm actually looking for. And when you operate from your heart and when you care deeply about the things that you do, it's hard for that to be overlooked. And so it happened to get into the eyesight of the people at Ecoversity, of some dear friends of mine. And we definitely love to operate with passion. And so when you have so much passion for what you do, it's almost contagious, and it kind of snowballs off of each other. And so I got lucky, and it involves taking risks, and involves, booking a one-way ticket to the place that you've never been to before, with maybe, and that's the classic story. I had no money and I bought a one-way ticket and I landed in this place. But truthfully, if you really allow yourself to just surrender to these experiences and to relate with others and talk about what you've been going through, there's so much, not just healing, but there's so much growth that can happen from that. And yeah, being very clear with your vision and knowing that you are going to get kicked down. And sure, you can pick yourself back up, but picking yourself back up with those lessons and incorporating those in so that you can get even closer to the goal.
Nice. Yeah, good answer. I love hearing that. I always recommend this video called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. He's kind of like the godfather of self-help. It's incredibly outdated, so if you do YouTube search this, disregard some of the language used, but basically it was one of the early influences I had as far as like finally setting a goal and then kind of navigating towards it. And yeah, I don't know, whatever you said just there just kind of reminded me of that. And yeah, thanks for sharing. I love hearing that.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, definitely do. It sounds like you're kind of already on your path. I kind of listened to that when I was a lot more lost. But again, if you do listen to it, just know that they're going to use 1950s, perhaps overly religious language that might turn some people off. But
Yeah,
no judgment of my character, but still.
no,
Uh,
totally.
my caveats out of the way.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm also curious, what is one thing you do daily to practice your herbal craft?
Well, I would say the one thing that I bring daily that incorporates my herbal craft is the first cup of tea that I make in the morning. I've had the privilege of being at my dear friend's farm here in Costa Rica, and she has a beautiful medicinal herb garden filled with all of the herbs that I could ever dream of. And so every morning I would go out and just harvest enough to make a couple cups of tea for all of us. And we have some hardworking farmer friends who, you know, may not tap into the herbal world as much. And so after a long day of work, after a long day of work, we'll make a cup of passion flower and some tilo, a little bit of oregano and rosemary, and you can kind of see them all start to relax. But yeah, waking up in the morning and having a fresh cup of tea is my favorite way of starting the day, and also practicing herbalism. And it's as little as, a simple infusion, which can really just bring so much light and joy into your day and allow yourself to go in with a little bit more intention. So that morning cup of tea is definitely the foundations of a good day for me.
Amen. All right, two more questions. And as I told you, we got these this game. It's called Let's Get Deep, Friends Edition. And so what I want to do is choose a random card, and you're gonna answer it. I went through these. I went through these with my daughter last night, and Amanda. She was kind of the final judge on these, and we chose this amount of questions that were like seemed appropriate. So they're just random. They might be like, "What's your favorite food?" But it's just to get to know Chloe a little bit better. So I'll just choose a random card.
Awesome.
And
Well,
I'll
you guys
answer.
still have
What's
yeah,
that?
yeah. You guys have a solid deck there. That you guys were able to pull some good questions, it looks
Yeah,
like.
it's actually a pretty big box. So it came with a bunch of them. So
Oh,
yeah.
and you'll
Oh,
answer one with me, right?
yeah, but my answer to this one's kind of boring. Answer is just no. But have you ever been in close proximity to a dangerous wild animal? Which one and where?
Oh, you've never been here?
I mean, maybe a wildcat and didn't know it, but I can't say that I've ever specifically seen one close and have been afraid. So
Yeah. Oh man. Well, this actually just recently happened. I was in where was I? I was in California outside of Yosemite, at Virginia Lakes, and we had just finished this epic hike. Beautiful, beautiful hike. And we were about to crack open a can of sardines. And we're sitting there and we're watching this bald eagle flying over the lake there. And I had never seen a bald eagle before. And I was just amazed. It was giant. And so we're literally, fingers are on the nozzle there. We're about to crack open this thing. And there's a little rustle in the trees next to us. And I was like, haha, squirrel. And my boyfriend looks at me and he's like, that's a squirrel doesn't make a sound like that. And I kid you not, from about 3 feet away from us is this probably juvenile grizzly bear. And he just looks at us and just stares at us for a moment. And we just were, our breath left our bodies and we were just like, be very still. And then he starts to move, towards the lake a little bit. And And I was like, "Hi, bear." And then he stopped again and looked over, and my boyfriend was like, "Don't talk," And so, luckily enough, the bear had entered the water and was giving himself a nice little bath, and that was so cute and so cool to watch. We definitely slowly backed up, way to give it some space, but I'm sure if we would have cracked open those sardines about 5 minutes earlier, it would have been a different story for us.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. See, I can't say I've ever had an experience like that. You said Yosemite, and we were at a Yellowstone. Where was it? Yeah, we saw a whole herd of bison crossing the river. That was cool, and I'm guessing they're probably dangerous, but they weren't close to us. So, but yeah, no, that's quite the experience you had.
Yeah, it's funny too because we actually ended up getting that whole experience on video on accident. And so we were able to
Oh,
watch back and see that, and my parents were definitely very concerned. They were like, "You can never hike again."
yeah. Yeah, we were just in Joshua Tree, California, and Amanda was doing some video and photographs, out there, and she crossed paths with three coyotes, which then she just sprinted away. But we were later told that they're not that harmful or dangerous, and we were actually told it was a good omen for the rest of our trip. But
Oh, yeah,
I didn't see
coyote
them.
love.
Amanda was face to face with them.
That could be pretty scary. I do think that they are a little bit more docile as long as their like cubs aren't around, but and yeah, just kind of being strong and barking back a little bit, that
There you
might scare them off a little bit. But yeah, in Las Vegas we have lots of coyotes, and it's always a concern, to keep your
go.
cats nice and safe from the coyotes because
Yeah,
they'll come right into your neighborhood. They'll be right on your front porch. Sometimes they're pretty bold.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, last question before we kind of wrap up here. What is your favorite part of being an herbalist, and what's your big why that keeps you learning and growing?
Mm. My favorite part about being an herbalist is how it connects me back to the earth and it keeps me super grounded. Um, I do think I'm a spiritual person, but herbalism and practicing herbal medicine is a way of really grounding down my spirituality and to making it um, actually worthwhile. And so I love to be able to support my community through certain things. Now I have, after working at an apothecary, I get a lot of beautiful people who walk into the space with different struggles or different experiences that they're having a hard time to deal with. And we're not prescribing or recommending anything. Yeah, we're able to help support our community through certain things like a heartbreak. That's something that was very close to me, and being able to have a girl come in and be like, I'm really struggling right now. What could benefit me, and whether that's a sitz bath or a cup of tea, or just having the space to be able to talk to someone who has also gone through these struggles, and being able to connect it back to the natural world is something super important. And um, I'm really fortunate to be able to work at an apothecary where we do get a lot of people who come in and share their experiences and their vulnerability and find it to be a safe space to be able to talk about things that they might not otherwise be able to talk about with their friends or with their family. And they don't even know what you're doing. Sometimes I'll just, be talking to them and they'll be telling me a little bit about them, and I'll think of an herb and I'll throw that in, and then or I think of a formula, and before I know it, I've made this cup of tea and we're still talking and they're drinking it and they have no idea, but then they're able to open up even further and kind of get a little bit closer to the source. And so yeah, herbalism is a wonderful way to help support your community with acute things that can be really debilitating for us in this world. And also yeah, that's a big reason why I love to do what I do.
Love it. Well, thank you for sharing, and thanks for your time today, Chloe. So we definitely want to link to you, ecoversity.com, right?
Yes, yeah. So ecoversity.com, we have enrollment for the herbalism program closes on April 19th. So there's still plenty of time to enroll in the course. And if you're interested, I also have a special offer available for the Herb Rally community.
Oh,
So
sweet.
we would love to support you guys. If you're interested in taking the program, we've got a treat for you here at Herb Rally. You can use the code Herb Rally to get 5% off of the program. It's a beautiful, beautiful program. And you can also book one-on-one calls with some of our trained herbalists who can help guide you into seeing if this program is right for you. You can also find the herbal smoking blends at Fuma Folia on Instagram or at fumafoliabotanicals.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen the website yet, but I definitely want to follow you on Instagram for sure. Well, thanks so much, Chloe, for joining me today, and we'll see you all on the next Herbalist Hour.
Thank you so much, Mason. It was such a treat to be here.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.